All right, guys, welcome back. Sorry again, apologize for my voice. Still slightly getting over that cold I had last week, so you'll just have to bear with it. All right, so let's move on to this is section 3 of part 2, Industrial Revolution. We have some more videos within the video here, so I will go over items that I want you to pay attention to. So let's move on to the spread of industrialization. Industrialization spreads, specifically to the United States and other parts of Europe. Now, do you think England wanted to share its technology and its success with America? No way, son. Not even close. Remember, just about 100 years prior to all this going on, in the 1800s and in the late 1700s, the American colonies had just broken away from England. So England wasn't very fond of the United States at all. They certainly weren't going to share anything with them. In fact, they weren't going to share anything with anybody. They weren't going to allow any of their engineers, their mechanics, tool makers, anything to leave the country, because if they did, they would take their plans and their blueprints for these machines and tools with them. England didn't want that. They wanted to keep all the tech for themselves. However, the information and the blueprints, they got out anyway. As information and technology always does, it always finds a way to get out. And it began with textiles, cloth making, making clothes. And it started with a guy named Samuel Slater, British guy, emigrated to the United States just about a decade after the U.S. broke away from Britain. And he went to the United States and built a spinning machine from memory and from partial designs. So now we already have, not even a century later from the American Revolution, but just about a decade later, here we already have one piece of textile machinery that used to be in England alone. Now it's over here in America, making clothes for Americans. Think the British were happy about it? Not. Don't think so at all. Slater was not very popular in England after this, but he made a killing over in the U.S. Now we move on to another guy, Francis Cabot Lowell, 1813. So roughly about 30 years after the American Revolution. He went into the United States, over in Massachusetts to be precise, and he took machines to a whole nother level there. Okay, he mechanized every stage of producing cloth, which meant that every stage of making a shirt, pants, jackets, whatever it was, involved a machine. That's what mechanized means. Every stage involves a machine. The use of machines to make stuff. Now, the working conditions were still pretty bad. However, young women were now able, by young women I mean late teens and early 20s women, now they were able to get out of the house and go get jobs. And some of these wages were fairly decent. And so they were able to escape having to be house servants. Now, their behavior was heavily supervised, but it was still a chance for young women to go out and have an adventure and get a job and start to make friends outside of their little town. In fact, Lowell, Massachusetts was named after Mr. Lowell, and it's still around today. It's still a factory town all these decades and centuries later. Notice it's located on a river. Water power. Cheap place to dump your waste. That hasn't changed. Now, for the U.S. in particular, industrialization absolutely exploded after the Civil War ended in 1865. Now, the U.S. already possessed a lot of the same advantages as Britain did. Natural resources like coal, iron, oil that you could drill out of the ground, plenty of rivers providing water power, lots of wood, trees, and lots of land, even more so than Britain had, much more than Britain had. And eventually, railroads would play a huge part in spreading industrialization even further. All right, another video within a video. Remember, I will go back through and highlight some things that I want you to pay attention to.
The Civil War marked a great turning point in America's history. In the last 3 decades of the 19th century, the country was transformed from a rural republic to an urban state. Frontiers vanished in the face of westward expansion. Factories and steel mills appeared on the scene, fueled by immigrant labor streaming through Ellis Island. Great transcontinental railroad lines linked the country together like never before. But with these advances came the evils of poverty and overcrowding. Poor working conditions and labor unrest marred the workplace, and the growing output of factories for the first time threatened the environment. It was in this setting that America came of age, poised on the brink of a revolution, the American Industrial Revolution.
All right, that was short, but I want you to go back through and view it again. And then I want you, in your notes, I want you to list down some of the evils that the video talked about that industrialization brought. All right, I want you to describe at least 3 evils, so-called evils, that industrialization brought to American cities and towns. Once you're done with that, go ahead and move on with the rest of the lecture. Okay, we're going to take a break here. We will come back to this section here, but we will take a short break, and we'll pick up with section 4 of Industrial Revolution Part 2.